if no one's listening to this podcast, we cannot build a successful business. It's impossible. So what's your thoughts on everyone who put unknown? What would you unpack for them? Because what I would say is my goal is to help everyone. You can't succeed. You can't be wild. I think being wildly successful and not being known at all is impossible. That's mathematically impossible.
I would say identify why first. Identify why. Is it because you're afraid of judgment? Is it because you're afraid of success? Is it because you think you might lose yourself? I would dig into that, because I would argue that somebody who has worked on themselves internally first is way more prepared for external success. Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 2005, how do you get over the fear of social judgment? So Amy did a post in Next Level Nation, our private Facebook group. If you want to join, we'll have the link in the show notes. And it was a really cool visual, but would you rather be famous for something that you love or unknown but wildly successful? And I'm pretty sure, so there's 19 comments.
Did anyone say famous?
Every single person said unknown, including me and including Alan. And Alan screenshotted it and he sent it to me and he said, dude, this has to be something, right? And you actually beat me to it, because I saw that and I was thinking that would make for a really good episode. Where will we go? I don't know. But I said, well, what do you think it is? You think it's the fear of judgment? Do you think it's the fear of failure? And Alan said, I think it's probably the fear of judgment. So here's the downside. It's really hard to be wildly successful and unknown. At least to some. I mean, there are definitely musical artists out there that have millions of listeners that I've never heard of, but they still have millions of listeners. And that's a lot of people. There's artists out there that are, painters or whatever other artists there are, who I've never heard of, but they have a very large following. I'm just not in that community. So even that, maybe you're not known by the entire population. Maybe this isn't like, you're not going to be Johnny Depp, right? Maybe you're saying like, I don't want to be Johnny Depp. But for every Johnny Depp, there is somebody local that's really well known. So I don't know. Can you really be as successful as you want and completely unknown? That's kind of where this episode is coming from.
I had a mentor early on who took me through when I first went to start investing, because I had a bunch of extra capital in corporate. I went to him and I asked what he does. Where does he invest his money? Why? And he wrote down this list of things that matter. And one of them on there was your reputation. And I think that I tried to explain this in the group coaching session yesterday. We had a connection session. Shout out to group 17, Voices Unleashed. I tried to talk about branding and marketing and how everyone has a reputation. And when you say a certain word, people associate you with that word. So if I say I'm an engineer, everyone has a certain meaning they associate to that. Okay, so probably calculated, probably pretty smart, probably math and science, whatever, right? So there was a person in group coaching who none of us in the room knew what she did. We all thought she was a financial advisor. She wasn't. And I said, we were trying to help with branding and marketing. I'll bring this into why this is important. Like, I don't think that you can be, this is my sort of bold statement to start. I don't think you can be super successful without being somewhat known, at least in your industry. And this mentor, no one would know his name if I were to say his name right now. It's sort of like if you're in New England, everyone knows who Tom Brady is. If you're in Canada, you might not know who Tom Brady is. Tom Brady is a Patriots quarterback for 20 years, the most successful NFL player in history. And I've learned over the years as a speaker, trainer, coach, podcaster that the world is like a giant high school, but it's different cliques. So in the podcasting space, there's certain people that everyone knows. Even though outside of that industry, so let me break this down. Kevin and I went to the same high school. If I say, who's the biggest jock, there's 3 names that I could name. He's going to think of at least one of them.
Yes.
Mike.
One of them.
Mike
yes.
would be one of them. John would be one of them, right? Okay.
Yep.
So everything is like that. but in the world. And so if you want to be really successful, you have to be known as really good at that thing. And unfortunately, if you're known as really good at that thing, you also have to be somewhat famous. So my answer, I forget what exactly it was verbatim, but my answer was I would prefer to be unknown and really wildly successful. However, I think fame will have to be an inevitable part of what we do. Because I like being the behind the scenes guy. I like one-on-one coaching better than I like podcasting. But the podcast allows me to reach more people and cast a wider net, which allows me to find more people that eventually coach with me. Kevin's the opposite. He still coaches, so we both coach, we both podcast. He's podcasting first, wide net, breadth over depth. I'm depth over breadth, and that's why on the show you kind of get both, and I tend to go really deep, and he tends to bring us back to the surface and make jokes. I'm being playful. But ultimately, if you're going to be successful, really successful, it would be nearly impossible to do that without being at least known in your space or in your town or in your whatever, your sector. So Serena Williams tennis, Oprah Winfrey media, Tony Robbins speaker, Evan Carmichael YouTube. You can name any famous person and you can name the thing easily. You're going to be famous for that thing. Fame is influence. Influence is success. It's almost impossible to become successful without influencing other people. If I don't know, if no one knows that my coaching is of value, no one can come to my coaching. So I don't want to be famous. I feel like to some extent I have to be, even though I genuinely don't actually enjoy it. Like I've had some people run into me in my town and all this stuff, and Emilia and I always have our hats down, and I don't even want anyone to notice me. Like genuinely, I literally don't want any of that. I just want to focus. But I also know that it's a necessity. And I think that's a really vulnerable conversation, because I think when I was a kid, there was a part of me that wanted to be famous. And then I think I got my tiny taste of it. And I was like, fuck this. This is terrible. And the reason why it's terrible is everybody wants something from you, or they judge the hell out of you. And I think that that's what it comes down to. Everyone that wrote unknown, number one, everyone's writing unknown, so that's probably influencing that. But the other piece of it is you can't be famous, well-known, and successful without being judged. It's impossible. If I give a speech in front of 1,000 people, I have 1,000 reputations. I only have one character.
Yeah.
I only have one real Alan. There's only one real Alan, but there's 1,000 opinions. And that's terrifying. It's honestly terrible. Like, I just want to be honest. I think it's
Keanu
terrible.
does it. You know, everybody loves Keanu. Why can't I be Keanu?
Well, Keanu has gotten some shit too, I'm sure.
I'm
right?
sure.
And
well,
I
I do believe he's also been through a lot of shit, and I think that's probably one of the reasons he's a humble human. But potentially, I don't know. Never met him. Love to. Would love to meet Keanu. You know, maybe I take the New York subway. He's sitting there. Keanu, what's up, dog? How you been living? You know, we'll have a conversation.
Talk to me about this. Like, there are a lot of famous people that a lot of people like. There are a lot of famous people that a lot of people don't like. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is because some of these people are obviously not very good people. And then some of it is just perception. And it's really tough because from the outside in, you are one version of who you are. And then from the inside out, you're another version. You're always you, but your reputation in high school is not who you actually are. Right. And your reputation in your industry isn't either.
I understand why. I think there's two thoughts. One, I understand why most people would say unknown, because it seems like you get all the benefits with none of the detriments. You know, imagine like, well, what was it? It was you do something you love, right? Famous for something you love, unknown but wildly successful. Yeah, how much easier would it be if you just won the lottery? You just won $500 million and nobody knew your name. That would make life different, but quote-unquote a lot easier. And nobody would be knocking down your door, and there would be no paparazzi and none of that. But I think, so I want to make sure this conversation, we actually touch on what we said we were going to talk about. This is the thing. Again, you don't go from, most people don't go from completely unknown to overnight sensations over the course of a month. That happens so rarely. that I think one of the things about social judgment is you get it along the way, and it still sucks, and it's still not fun, and it still hurts, but you get it along the way, and then you are able to deal with it more. I know now, last night it was like 7:45. I told Taryn, I said, I'll be in a couple minutes. I just got to check my messages. And there was something going on with the client. And I was like, I'm going to need some time. I've got to figure some stuff out here. I've got to move some pieces around. I'm going to take care of it. Normally, that would have wrecked my entire day. Like, something isn't right with a client. I have to fix it. Normally, that would have, not normally. 2 years ago, that would have fucked my entire night up. I wouldn't have been able to sleep. Rectified the situation. Team's on it. Good. All good. Message the client. Cool. That used to be like a level 8 stressor. Now it's like a level 2. I think social judgment's similar. Except most of us never start the process of building momentum. Again, you gotta experience it to see how you respond to it, and then the goal is next time let me respond a little bit better. So I understand why everybody would say unknown. Same. Of course, same. But if you're unknown, you also don't get the other side of being able to potentially make somebody's day because nobody knows who you are. You can still make someone's day, but they have an expectation of who you are. If you over-deliver on the expectation, now you're Keanu. If you under-deliver on the expectation, now you're whoever didn't have time for the person. Oh, they wouldn't take a picture of me or whatever it is. Meanwhile, I'm leaving the gym and I got to take a poop. I got to get home.
So the social world and the real world are two different things. And the social world is fame in this metaphor, and the real world is fulfillment. Hello, NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes. I think one of the reasons why it's really, 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 really alarmingly difficult to be successful externally and internally fulfilled is because they're two fundamentally different things. And I want to ask you this because I've contemplated this a lot for a long time, because little Alan, who felt insignificant, wanted, to be more known, and then I got more known and it was like, okay, this is terrible. Quote unquote, most popular kid in my college, all that. And then what came with that, I lost myself, all this stuff. So what I've found is that external success and influence, fame, quote unquote, influence, because obviously fame there's levels. That is what is required for external success. A lot. But that's often not what actually fulfills you. What actually fulfills you is a deeply meaningful relationship. What actually fulfills you is feeling great every day. Great sleep, great hydration, great body, great physique, feeling good about yourself, self-worth, self-belief. The inner world is where fulfillment is built. In the outer world, in success and business, you have no choice but to be known. I mean, in the tech space, I became known. SpaceX and iRobot and all the tech company, WPI is well known in the tech space. No one outside the tech space knows it at all. In the engineering world, everyone knows WPI and MIT and that kind of thing. But my question for you, Kev, and maybe this is new, but my thesis is you cannot be externally successful without facing social fear. It's impossible, because business is about people. If we don't know, if no one's listening to this podcast, we cannot build a successful business. It's impossible. So what's your thoughts on everyone who put unknown? What would you unpack for them? Because what I would say is my goal is to help everyone. You can't succeed. You can't be wild. I think being wildly successful and not being known at all is impossible. That's mathematically impossible.
Well, I think it depends on what wildly successful means to them. I think of, I know some people that do very well, that are contractors, that they aren't that well known, but they're very well known in the town and the city that they live in. They're not They don't even have a social media presence. They put their stuff up occasionally. They're not doing it like that.
But the whole town has a reputation. They have a reputation, the whole town.
The whole town and everybody that they work with.
Yes.
But they have been in business for however long, so I think they've had time to level up to that.
Right.
That, I think, I would say identify why first. Identify why. Is it because you're afraid of judgment? Is it because you're afraid of success? Is it because you think you might lose yourself? I would dig into that, because I would argue that somebody who has worked on themselves internally first is way more prepared for external success. And I think this is why you see kid stars just go off the rails. Of course.
Yeah,
you haven't had any time to work on yourself. Macaulay Culkin, kid who was in Home Alone, was like one of the biggest stars on the planet, and he was like 9, however old he was. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, for sure.
You're not
ready.
You're not ready. You couldn't possibly be.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly be ready. So
how the hell did Harry Potter handle that? I mean, seriously, Daniel Radcliffe, that
probably had really good people around him.
Yeah, because Emma Watson handled it well too. She still got her degree at Brown. Like
Some
it
people-
seems like she handled it pretty well.
Some people do. I wonder if it's because they live in a different country, though.
That might be part of it. Yeah.
I don't know.
But those are the most famous movies, maybe in history. I mean, the Harry Potter series,
Super
most famous books in history, maybe most famous movies. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But
And then you think of like the Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. They were all like 18 years old. And that was all reverse engineered. That wasn't luck. Like they found them and said, we're going to make you stars. So they weren't ready for that. So I think it's that. I think, one, what is the fear underneath it? That's part one. Part two is, let's have an honest conversation about the level of impact you want to have and the level of results you want in life, and how do we get to the place where you actually feel capable of putting yourself out there to that degree. I think the best example I can use is I don't think about this episode going out to however many people it's going to go out to anymore. In the beginning, I did. I don't think about that anymore.
It could be 500. It could be 5 million. We don't know.
Right.
And that's the internet, right? It's wild.
But I can imagine if somebody has never done this before and they would get like a really big opportunity to be on whatever podcast, they might say no, because it's like, I'm not ready for that. Is it going to be edited? No, it's going to be live streamed. How many people? There's going to be we usually have 1 million people that watch each live stream. No, I'm good. Understandable.
But then you won't be successful. Like that's the downside. Is it's very hard to be successful if you say no to opportunities like that.
But that
this has been the
opportunity
hardest
is too
part
big.
of this.
That opportunity it's too much of a stretch.
I know we have a time constraint, both of us, but I really want to try to get this to land, because the hardest part of being successful for us, I think, is success. I think is hard for a lot of people. It's challenging. It's been hard for me too, but how do I say this right? Success in itself is challenging. Success in alignment with your integrity feels fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to Kev yesterday about how I got cast for Love Island, and I could have done that. And I was talking to Kev very vulnerably behind the scenes, saying, I'm so glad I didn't do that. And I would have been rich and famous, quote unquote, but like, I wouldn't have met Emilia. That is more important to me. By far. It's not fucking close. Now, that's also easy to say because I also feel like we're still successful, right? But like, when I saw that post, I knew there was something where it's like, okay, our community is obviously people who are not narcissists. Like the narcissist score, you can look this up, is very low in our community. I'm very grateful for that. Seriously, because, I mean, goddamn. But that also means you're holding yourself back. There's something, you have to be willing to be known for your thing if you're going to be successful. And that's a fact. You have to be willing to be known. I had a LinkedIn. I had to put myself out there. Like, there's no way I could have succeeded in corporate the way I did if I wasn't willing to, like, face my fear of judgment. I face my fear of judgment all the time. On this episode, do you know how many things I've said that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you have to put yourself out there in order to be successful. So I'd rather be unknown and wildly successful. Well, it's impossible. That's not a thing. Unless you are generational wealth, in which case you can do that.
I think it sounds noble to be unknown. It sounds noble to just do the work behind the scenes and nobody ever knows it was you. And I'm not saying
it doesn't work.
I'm not. Well, I mean, it works to a degree. It's not. It's not going to work maybe for everybody to the place that they want to get to. And I'm not going to say that's right or wrong either. If that's what you want to do, you do you. But just like we had this conversation where there's a channel I follow that's all about the channel is essentially dedicated to charity. I can't speak to save my life. And what they do is they'll go buy a bunch of food and they'll go give it to underprivileged kids, or they'll give it to people living on the streets, or whatever it is, and they record it so they can put it on social media, so they can get donations on their GoFundMe, so they can continue this going.
Mm-hmm.
For every one person that donates, there's a person that says, why do you have to do this? Like, why can't you just do this behind the scenes? I know that seems more noble, but unless you have Boku bucks, it's not going to live that long.
Influence is required. It's a requirement for success. It's a requirement. And until all of us get over that, we will not be successful. And
that's your next level lesson.
That's my next level lesson.
That's your next level lesson. Okay.
If I could be successful just without any level of like social judgment, of course I would do that. That's not a thing. If you want to impact people, you're going to have to put yourself out there, and you're going to get both love and hate. And there is no fucking way around that. And especially if you're going to be your true self.
Yeah, I was going to say, just wear a mask.
And if you're more afraid of hate than you are in your desire to impact, this has been the hardest part of my journey. It's been the hardest part of the journey for me, is how do I be me and impact others while I dislike being villainized. That is the hardest part. So for anyone out there fighting the good fight, I'm rooting for you. You got to do it. Do it tastefully. Stay yourself, but you can't be a coward. You got to put yourself out there.
My next level lesson would be dig into what is actually under it. Is it fear of judgment? Fear of success kind of encapsulates a lot of it. But what's under it? Do you not think you can handle it? Do you have skeletons in the closet? Whatever it is, that's where we got to start. Because if you do aspire to have that level of impact and that lifestyle, what? You got some skeletons in the closet?
No, I just was thinking about some of the stuff we've told each other in the past.
Oh, I got some shit on you for sure.
Little childhood trauma.
You got some shit
trauma
on me
share.
as well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would dig awareness. You know me. I always think awareness is the first step, and that's where my mind goes. It's because I'm afraid to hear what people say about me when they don't really know me. More than it feels good to hear what people say about me when they do know me. That is my takeaway. All right, cool. Next Level Live 2025. Tickets are selling as we speak. So we're only selling 50 tickets, as we mentioned, because we want to make sure that we can have 5 really high-quality breakout sessions, breakout groups, and we don't want to have too many people. So link will be in the show notes. Make sure you get your ticket. Do not wait till the last minute, because then you're going to end up missing it, and then you're going to get mad at us, and you're going to hate us, and you're going to have to wait till next year, and who knows, we might blow up and be famous by then, and tickets might be like $10,000. So I would hate for you to miss that opportunity. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. At NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay next level. Next Level Nation.